You know why we're not a proper country anymore? You know those videos of people who will come on here and say, I know about this song or this artist or whatever because I watched MTV or VH1 in the mornings before school, and I learned about all this different type of music because I didn't know about this music before, but because I watched MTV or VH1 in the morning, the little music video countdowns or little music videos in the morning before school, that's the only reason I know about these artists, that's the only reason I know about these songs, and I'm a cultured person because of it. And you want to know something? They're right, because yeah, MTV and VH1 back in like the 2000s, 2010s was giving us a lot of music that we might not have known about otherwise, right? Like there were a lot of music that people might not have known about otherwise. Like you really had to be into that type of music to know about this type of music, and then if you weren't, VH1 and MTV came in clutch with their music videos in the morning. I remember going to work in the early 2010s and turning on VH1 to watch the music videos. Yep, I did. And it was good times. It was good times. I knew about all the stuff because I was watching the music videos on VH1 in the morning before work. They don't do that anymore. And it's sad because between music video countdown shows, watching music videos in the morning before school or before work, and, you know, just music video content in general, it's all gone. And it's interesting because Ridiculousness, you know, that annoying show with Rob Dyrdek, who was making 32.5 million an episode or a show or a week or whatever, crazy, just ended on MTV after 14 years. Yeah, even with the ending of Ridiculousness, we are never going to be a proper country ever again because MTV and VH1 are never going to be what MTV and VH1 were ever again. Okay? Like, VH1 used to have this show on their channel. Used to have many shows on their channel that I was very heavily watching back in the 2000s and learning all of my pop culture from it. And it was these shows called it was either the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, and they even had a millennial version, so they had the 2000s as well. But it was a show about how, it was like, I love the 90s. And it was like all these celebrities, and they would like come on and they would like talk about different pop culture, music, movies, TV shows that came out in the 90s. And it was really a good show because you learned about a lot of pop culture things. Like even though I was born in the 90s, I was born in 91. So even though I was born in the 90s and I was a kid in the 90s and I know a lot about 90s stuff because I have older siblings who are Gen X, Xennials, whatever you want to call them, and they were teenagers in the 90s, so I do know a lot of 90s stuff. There was still stuff I didn't know about because I was young. I was super young. And so I watched I Love the 90s. And it helped me learn about all these things that went on in the 90s. I watched I Love the 80s and I Love the 70s. That's how I know all my pop culture stuff. I watched Pop-Up Video. I watched that too. And, you know, I watched the countdowns of the 100 greatest songs of the 90s. I watched those countdowns too. And I absolutely loved those kind of programming on VH1 and on, you know, MTV also had their versions. And, you know, of course they had like TRL, and then you had BET, which also had 106 in Park. And it was just really a vibe. It was a vibe in the 90s and 2000s, right? And not to get into too much of reality TV, but even the reality TV back then was better. And it's just like, we will never be a proper country again because we don't have any of these programs. We don't. And I'm not saying these programs have to be on a TV channel because obviously TV is dead. But even on the streaming it won't work. And even on the YouTubes it won't work. Because, you know, back in the day when YouTube first came out, it was really revolutionary and we all got our music videos from, you know, the YouTubes. And that was great. But now we're too divided when it comes to our entertainment and our media. And so we don't have this homogenized version of media anymore. And so now, like, we don't really have that. I mean, I think the most recent thing that most people, it feels like is very homogenized with most people is maybe the release of Sinners that came out, you know, this year. And, you know, everybody was talking about it. But for the most part, there isn't a really homogenized culture that we have anymore. And it's really actually sad because you know, back in the day, we would all come home and maybe on like a Tuesday night, we'd watch American Idol, and we watched Kelly Clarkson win the first American Idol. And then we'd go to school the next day and talk to our friends about how Kelly Clarkson won American Idol. And it was like a big deal. And we like all knew what was going on because we all watched the same programming. And now we don't have that. And we're also losing recipes because we don't know our pop culture the way we used to. And we don't know all of these facts and things about, you know, life and stuff. And so it's just interesting, you know? And it kind of sucks that, you know, MTV, VH1, BET, whatever, are never going to be what they were back in the day. And I think that's why we will never be a proper country again, because we don't have all of these, you know, things that were actually teaching us things. Yeah, it was pop culture-y and music related, but it was teaching us stuff, you know what I mean? It was cool to know, like, you know, what was going on in a music video, like how much a music video cost, or what was going on in a music video. And we learned that from pop-up video, or, you know, those behind the scenes shows where the artists would take us behind the scenes of like a music video or like a concept of a music, and they would take us behind the scenes and they would tell us about this is how this was made, this was this and that. And you know, I think that's really cool, because then there were people who were like, oh, I'm really interested in like making music videos or making films, or they were really interested in like, you know, that type of stuff. And those behind the scenes, you know, little moments with the artists who took us behind the scenes of their music videos and stuff maybe inspired the next person to make really cool music videos or really cool, you know, movies or whatever. And now we don't have that. And I think it's sad. I do. And so even though Ridiculousness is ending on MTV finally, even though I never even watched the show, it's so sad because MTV, VH1, BET, it'll just never be the same. It'll never be the same, and the recipes that us as millennials and Gen X had back in the day, we will never have again. We will never have again. So, yeah, it sucks, but that's life.